Brothers and sisters, with these facts that have been facing us as a people in this country, there are many reasons why so many people can be worried. On the other hand, their economic downturn in the business sector of the world, many business people are fretting. They say COVID-19 have turned into a very serious pandemic, and somehow it's become global. Moved from a breakout, which means that it was controllable, to epidemic, which means that it becomes bigger, and then now it's pandemic, which means that it is out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, it has slammed into the airline industry. That up to last week, they say the airline industry have lost over some $150 billion. It has slammed into hotel trade, and many hotels across the world now suffering. Hotels on the North Coast right now are suffering. They're closing their doors right here in Jamaica. It slammed into the stock market because it is said that Dow Jones is dropping. NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, dropping. The Tokyo Stock Exchange dropping. The Shanghai stock market dropping. Hong Kong Stock Exchange dropping. London is failing. And many more around the world is losing trillions of dollars in the stock market. The World Health Organization has declared that Europe, the new epicenter of the global coronavirus pandemic, 24 European countries have closed their borders to tourists. 26 countries in Europe border who enjoy a free zone where people can move from one place to the other in Europe. They have shut down their borders fully and some partially to visitors. And they said this will happen for a couple of weeks, and they don't know how long it will last for, because this now will block movement for many of the EU 400 million citizens, as well as tourists, business people, and foreign residents. A whole lot of things are happening worldwide. Italy and Spain has locked down all essential services. At the same time, the chemical companies in Jamaica ran out of so many of their chemicals. Run out of supplies, hand sanitizers. Some supermarket shelves are empty. There are loads of institutions around the world that are closing down, closing their doors. I want to say, brothers and sisters, the church is one institution that our doors will not be closed. The government will order the buildings that host the church to be closed, but the church cannot be closed. I kept on telling you that the building is not the church. And I've been saying this for so many years, that the building is not the church. The church is in the building, but the building is not the church. And I've been saying this, that this institution, the government cannot close it. Tomorrow, they say the buildings should be closed. The church is still strong. I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that the church was not built on the coronavirus. Church was not built on coronavirus. And I don't want any church people to be looking at coronavirus and think that it's the end of the church. The church is still strong. The church has been strong through the lion's den, through the fiery furnace, through the tyranny of the emperors all across the world who try to kill the church. And the church is still strong. I'm glad for those of you who are still in church. If every time the church people ought to be coming to church with their hands lifted and their mouth filled with praise, it's now. Thank God for those of you who are in this institution where prayer can be offered. The building is not the church. The church has been coming from a very far way. In Exodus chapter 3 and verse 2, you saw the church. Because God appeared to Moses in a burning fire. And Moses looked and saw that the bush was not burned. And he began to inquire, and he heard something happening in the church, because there's a voice that cried out, Moses, Moses, take off your shoes from off your feet, because where you're standing is a holy ground. The church is still crying for holiness. The church is still praising God. The church, there's still a voice that is crying in the burning bush. You see the church in Genesis 24 verse 15, because Moses went up to the mountaintop to meet with God. And when he went up to the mountaintop, there was a roaring fire. There was smoke. The cloud was strong, and the presence of God was so hot until Moses actually felt the fire of God upon his face. He came down off the mountain with a veiled face. And so people who are in the church, you're going to feel a fervent heat. The fire of God is going to come over you in these times more than ever. If every time people ought to be in church, is now. You got to understand, Moses was up on the mountaintop, but the people are down in the valley building images. I hope that none of you in these times of this coronavirus, you're building images. I hope that you're on the mountaintop crying out unto God until the flame of God come over you, until the fire of God. Even if you have to be in your home, I hope and pray that you're seeking the face of God and you're crying out on your face before God. God did say, if my people who are called by my name would just humble themselves, seek my face and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. The church was up on the mountaintop, and Moses brought the people partway and had to put a border around the border so that the people couldn't break through to go up to God. God wanted to come down to the people, and so God could not just stay on the mountaintop alone with Moses. He just didn't like the idea of coming halfway down the mountain to meet the people. He wanted to be with the people. So he told Moses, won't you build me a tabernacle, because I want to be with the people. So you see him now in the tabernacle, in the holies of holies, and the most holy place. You could see the flame and the fire of God. Yes, and 2.5 million people gather around it. They could see when God appeared in the tabernacle. It was such a glorious scene as God would come down to meet the people, but God was still not satisfied. And so the church kept on going until God says, I'm tired of just being in a tabernacle under a tent. I want somewhere for myself. Solomon built him a temple, and when Solomon built him a temple, Solomon used even the nails as gold. And when Solomon built the temple, I hear God says, I still don't want to be in a temple that is made by man's hand. I want a people for myself. And so whereas the temple was the big thing, but now God says, you are the temple. You are the temple of the living God. So you and I became the temple of the living God. So now that your government might ask for the buildings of the church to be closed, but praise be to God, we have temples in our homes, temples walking on the street. The temple of God is strong. People who are lifting their hands and are glorifying God. Church is not built on coronavirus. So coronavirus cannot destroy the church. Thank God I'm a part of this organization. I'm giving God the praise praise that he made me somebody who can carry his glory in the midst of the carnivorous, I call it carnivorous virus, that danger that is walking through the land. God is with us, church. In spite of everything, God is with us. If I send locusts on the earth, if I send pestilence upon the earth, if my people which are called by my name could just lift their hands, if you could just come to church, if you could just worship me, then I will hear your prayer. I will heal your